Now this is a thorough and complete step-by-step guide aimed at beginner knitters. This video explains stitch by stitch how to create these beautiful lace bubble gloves. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you never miss a stitch. I'm Maria May from the Casting On Couch and I can't wait to show you these, so let's begin. You are watching my beginner's edit. See the description if you are more of an advanced knitter, as I have a much more suitable video for you. Please make a note of the materials that you'll be needing to complete this project. For this project you will need a typical double knitting yarn. This is Rowan Softiac Double Knit 00245 is the shade, and what you want to do is, for results similar to mine, you want to marry the ball band tension and look out for a yarn that uses a 4mm needle. Create a slip knot, and we want to cast on 36 stitches using the long tail cast on method. Now if you're unsure how to do the long tail cast on, then I recommend that you check the description, and there I'll leave a link to my beginner's guide. Once you have 36 stitches, we are going to rearrange the work over 3 double pointed needles. Let's look into how this is achieved. Now we're going to just flip this needle over so that the tail end is on the right, in order that we can slip 2 sets of 9 stitches onto 2 more double pointed needles. So there's our first stitch. I'm just entering purlwise, look. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Slip a further 9 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we always know that needle 1 has the greater amount of stitches, i.e. 18. So now we've got our stitch count in place. I need to flip that over and just have a check again. So needle 3 is here. There's the tail and the working yarn. There's needle 1. So with all the stitches nicely aligned there, just double checking, I can get my 4th double pointed needle and begin the very first round. So I'm going to enter into this first stitch on needle 1, and then I'm going to bring it in connection with needle 3, and I'm going to bring the tail, or rather not the tail, the working yarn. I'm holding the tail at the same time. I'm bringing the working yarn in between our working needle and needle 1 there, and I'm holding things as tightly as I can. It's a bit of a juggling act. Bringing it through and then taking off that first knit stitch. So we have now connected the round. As we're doing a rib, I'm bringing the yarn to the front to create a purl stitch. So with the working needle, I'm entering into the next stitch from the front, like so, and then bringing the yarn in between and gently pulling through. So it's a little bit of a juggling act, but once you get through this setting up round, you'll find it gets easier as you go along. So now I'm going to repeat that knit 1, purl 1 rib sequence. So go in to the next stitch, front to back, bring the working yarn in between and pull through. Yarn to the front and then purl 1 So far we have knitted one, purled one, knitted one and purled one. Yarn to the back, knit one, yarn to the front, purl one, yarn to the back, knit one, yarn to the front, purl one. Yarn to the back, knit one, yarn to the front, purl, yarn to the back, knit one, yarn to the front, purl, and yarn to the back. We knit one, purl one, yarn to the back, knit one, yarn to the front, purl one. Our last two stitches of needle one, so we end with a knit one and then finally a purl one onto needle two. So that's needle one now completed. So we bring this over. Now our first stitch on needle two, we take the yarn to the back, we enter into that first stitch knitwise, now where I have the junctions of all these needles, I like to just pull in the yarn a little bit more tightly than I would ordinarily. So I'm knitting that first stitch on needle two, bringing the yarn to the front and now purling. Knit, yarn to the front, whoops, purl, yarn to the back, knit, yarn to the front, purl, yarn to the back, knit, yarn to the front, purl, and this time on needle two we end with a knit one, so don't be caught out there. Now for needle three we bring this, lower this needle down. The first stitch on needle three is going to be purl this time, so beware. So entering into the front of the first stitch, and again I'm at the junction, so I'm pulling in a little bit more tightly than I would do ordinarily, just to avoid that kind of laddering effect, which does sometimes occur in knitting if it's not pulled tightly at the junctions. Knit one, then purl one, yarn to the back, knit one, yarn to the front, purl, and if we've done everything correctly, the last stitch will be a purl. Knit, purl, knit, purl. So well done if you've made it through this first round. That's setting up of work over 3 double pointed needles, and getting that first row is the most challenging part of it. Once you're established, you're away. So well done. Let's bring needle 1 further down, ready for working. Now that round 1, is the basic rib pattern, and you just repeat that same sequence for round 2. So that would be knitting 1 and purling 1. And I want you to carry on for a total of 12 rounds. So we have 11 more rounds of this sequence, and then we will have our ribbed band complete. If you want to make the short length version in red, I've done 22 rounds there. So this longer length glove actually has a shorter cuff, if you like, or band. So this is round 2, and I'll just do this one a little bit quicker so that you see how the second round develops. And hopefully you're still knitting with me. See, I prefer actually working in double pointed needles. I like the work being divided in a way that I can kind of remember. I find the magic loop, I get a bit kind of bit frustrated with the magic loop pulling through stitches all the time. This, believe it or not, I personally find easier. So this is needle 2, and you can hopefully see that once you get that first round and that cast on over with, you're away and the work will be so much easier. Now for needle 3. Now this needle begins with a purl 1. So we must remember not to be caught out by that, and pull that tightly there at the junction. Purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, and ending on a purl 1. So that's 2 rounds completed, so 10 more to go, so keep going with that. Once you have 12 rounds of rib stitch pattern, we can do the increase round and prepare for the lace bobble pattern. I'm going to call this setting up increase round, round A, and what I want you to do first of all is begin this round by knitting 6. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Next we're going to increase whilst making a bobble. With your right needle tip, enter into the strand in between your 2 stitches, like so, and use the tip to slip it onto the left needle, and at the same time then go slightly into the front so that you can come back out again and enter from front to back, like so. Now we're going to make a little cluster of increases. We're going to begin by knitting 1 without taking the stitch away from the left needle. bring the yarn to the front, yarn forward, sometimes called yarn over, enter into the same stitch, knit one, and note I'm keeping this quite reasonably loose. I'm not pulling tightly here. In fact, I'm kind of pulling so that I can release the stitch. Bring to the front, yarn forward, and again knit one stitch. Check you have a little cluster of 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then release your stitch from the left needle. Now turn the work we are going to purl these 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn the work, and we are now going to form a decrease. So those first 2 stitches, enter into both of them knitwise, knit 2 together, knit the remaining 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. Turn the work again, and this time I want you to purl 2 together and then purl 2. So that's purl 2 together and purl 2, and turn the work. This time enter knitwise into all 3 stitches, knit 3 together, and your little bobble is formed. Let's encourage it to come foremost, uppermost. And to make it even perkier, what I do is I wrap the yarn around the base of the bobble. So what I mean by that is I kind of go under it, around and back again, like so, and then I bring the yarn to the back, and this makes my bobbles very, very perky. So a little bobble tip for you there. To finish the repeat, knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and you would continue this repeat pattern that I've shown you throughout the entire round. Now, just to recap, we have 2, 4, 6 knit stitches, a bobble with an increase, and a set of 3 knit stitches here. A total of 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, total of 10 stitches from 9. So knit 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm using the tip of my right needle, placing it on the left, and at the same time I'm just encouraging that loop to come forward, because I'm going to enter into it and form my bobble. So knit 1, I'm pulling it because I don't want these stitches to be tight. Yarn forward, knit 1, pulling so there's no tightness, yarn forward, knit 1. Turn the work, and purl 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn the work, knit 2 together, knit 3, 1, 2, 3. Turn the work, begin by purling 2 together, so entering into the fronts of the next 2 stitches. So this second one didn't want to play ball, so purl 2 together and then purl 2, and I've worked those maybe slightly looser than I would do ordinarily, because the next row you want to be able to insert your needle into all 3 and knit them together like so. Bring foremost, tighten, and do a little wrap to make your bobble nice and perky. Bring it around and to the back, and knit 3. So we've now got 2 repeats on our needle 1 there. On to needle 2, and we just keep maintaining this pattern. So beginning by knitting 6 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now pull up a strand with the tip of your right needle, place it on the left needle, and again just pull the loop to the front so that you can enter from front to back a little bit easier, and create your knit 1, your yarn forward or yarn over, knit 1, remember keep it loose, yarn forward, knit 1, turn and purl those 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn the work, knit 2 together, knit 3, turn the work, purl 2 together, and purl 2, turn the work, and this time knit 3 together, and encourage your bobble to come to the front, and then we've got our little wrap at the base. Check you like the shape, and then knit 3. So that's needle 2. Now for the last repeat on needle 3, knit 6, and into the strand, use the tip of your right needle and place it on the left. Use the right needle to also pull that loop towards the front so that you can then quickly insert, oh, not like that, let's do that again. Bring it to the front so that you can insert your needle knitwise and knit 1, yarn forward, knit 1, yarn forward, knit 1, turn the work and purl the 5 stitches from your little bobble cluster. 1, let's work them in the right order. 2, 3, 4, 5, turn the work, and now we are going to knit 2 together and knit 3. Turn the work, purl 2 together, and purl 2, turn the work and knit these last 3 stitches together. So bring your bobble to the front, give it a tighten, and then we'll do the perky bobble wrap. 1, 2, take it to the back, and finish this round by knitting 3. 1, 2, 3. Now before we continue, I want you to check that you have a total of 40 stitches. So needle 1 should have 20 and needles 2 and 3 should have 10 stitches. Now we can move on to the main lace bobble pattern. So this consists of 8 rounds which you will repeat. Round 1 is a plain knit round, however there are stitches that you need to slip. So please pay attention to each and every round. I want you to knit this round, and then when we get to the very last stitch I want you to slip it onto needle 1. So I'm going to show you round 1, even though it's just a knit round. I'm going to show in its entirety. Let's release some more yarn. So the odd rounds are knit rounds, but the last stitch, and in one round's case, which round is it? Round 7 actually slips 2, but rounds 1, rounds 3 and rounds 5, we slip the last stitch over. So that's needle 1. Now for needle 2. So just keep knitting. So needle 2 has been knitted. So needle 3, knit your stitches leaving the last one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is very important. This last stitch we have here, slip it onto needle 1. If you don't do so, this pattern will not work for you. So that's round 1 completed. Now we can start round 2, and this is the repeat. We're going to begin by knitting 2 together, and then yarn forward, or if you call it yarn over, then knit 1, yarn forward, and then I'm going to slip 1 and then knit 1, and then I'm going to pass the slip stitch over, and then I'm going to knit 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that sequence there is the main pattern, and I want you to keep repeating it. And I want you to slip the last stitch over onto needle 2. I'll show you what I mean. So let's start the repeat again. Knit 2 together, yarn forward, knit 1, yarn forward, then I want you to slip 1, knit 1, pass the slip stitch over, and knit 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you have a stitch remaining on needle 1, and it's very important that it gets transferred and utilised on needle 2. And now we can repeat the main pattern again. So beginning, can't seem to insert my needle into that one. Right, knit 2 together. Let's get a bit more yarn. So knit 2 together, yarn forward, knit 1, yarn forward, slip 1, knit one, and then pass the slip stitch over and knit 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and see we have a stitch remaining. Transfer that over and place it onto needle 3, and we'll do this repeat one last time. On needle 3 there'll be no stitches left over, because remember we did that on round 1. So what I'd like you to do is insert into the next 2 stitches and knit them together. Yarn forward, knit 1, yarn forward, slip 1, knit 1, and pass the slip stitch over and knit 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So no stitches remaining on needle 3, that is correct. So we've now completed rounds 1 and 2. Now round 3, it's the same as round 1, so knit the round, and the very last stitch you need to slip onto needle 1. I'm working needle 3, I'm coming to the end of the round, so knit, leaving the last stitch, and remember to slip that over and onto needle 1. So that's round 3 completed. Round 4, we're going to begin by knitting 2 together, and then yarn forward or yarn over, knit 3, 1, 2, 3, yarn forward or yarn over, slip 1, knit 1, and pass the slip stitch over and knit 3. 1, 2, 3, and I want you to repeat that sequence throughout, but we will have some stitches on this round to slip in order to maintain the flow of the pattern. So knit 2 together, yarn forward and knit 3, yarn forward and slip 1, knit 1, and then we want to pass the slip stitch, which is here. We want to pass that over, and then we want to knit 3, and we should have a stitch remaining. So our remaining stitch gets placed onto needle 2, and we can continue on with the main pattern again. So needle 2, knit 2 together, yarn forward, knit 3, 1, 2, 3, yarn forward, slip 1, knit 1, and pass that slip stitch over and knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and the remaining stitch from needle 2 gets carefully placed onto needle 3, and we do the repeat one last time. So begin by knitting 2 together, yarn forward, knit 3, 1, 2, 3, yarn forward, slip 1, knit 1, pass the slip stitch over and knit 3. So needle 3 has no stitches left over. So that completes round 4. So we're halfway through our repeat pattern. So for round 5 it's the same as round 1, so I want you to knit all the way around to the last stitch. This is needle 3. I'm coming to the end of the round, and I just want to make sure that you remember to slip that very last stitch over and onto needle 1, ready to work in with the next round. So that's round 5 completed. Round 6. So begin by knitting 2 together, and then yarn forward and knit 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarn forward, slip 1, knit 1, and pass the slip stitch over and knit 1, and repeat that sequence throughout. So begin by knitting 2 together, yarn forward and knit 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yarn forward, slip 1, knit 1, and pass the slip stitch over and knit 1, and the remaining stitch gets placed onto needle 2 because we need it for our knit 2 together at the beginning. So needle 2 now, we want to enter into the next 2 stitches and knit them both together. Yarn forward and knit 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarn forward and slip 1, knit 1, and pass that slip stitch over and knit 1, and carefully place the remaining stitch over and onto needle 3, and we begin needle 3 with a knit 2 together, yarn forward, knit 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yarn forward, slip 1, knit one, pass the slip stitch over and end by knitting one. So that's needle 3 completed. That was round 6. Next is, it's a knit round. This is round 7, but I really need you to pay attention here because we want to slip the last 2 stitches for round 7. So round 7, we just continue knitting. So I'm at the end of the round. How many stitches left? 4 stitches. I want to leave 2 at the end. So these 2 stitches from needle 3 are going to be placed onto needle 1. We need both of them to form the next round. So that's round 7 completed. So now for round 8, we begin round 8 with a yarn forward and knit 3 together. So it's very important that you have the yarn placed in the front of the work and under the working needle in readiness. So I'm going to position my right needle into those 3 stitches so that we can knit 3 together. But before I complete that action, I'm making sure my yarn is in fact under the working needle. So that means I can create a yarn forward and I can bring it around and form my knit 3 together at the same time, like so. So that's what you have to remember when your yarn forward is at the beginning of a double pointed needle, basically. So we've got yarn forward, knit 3 together, yarn forward again, and this time I want you to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to make a bobble into the next stitch. So no strand this time. The main pattern, what you do is you enter into the stitch, and this will be familiar to you because you do the same thing, the same action, knitting 1, bringing the yarn to the front, keeping it loose, knitting again without taking it from the left needle, yarn forward and knit 1. So from our next stitch, from 1 we've created 5. So now we've done that, we can turn the work and we're going to purl those 5 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And now that you've purled 5, turn the work again, and this time we're going to knit 2 together, and then we're going to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, turn the work, and remember we purled 2 together and then we purl 2. And turn the work again, and then knit 3 together. Try that again. I feel like my stitches are slipping off. They are. Ooh, that's no good, is it? Let's place that back on. So, I think I've caught them all that time. So knit 3 together, and I'm bringing the yarn around to make my bobble nice and perky. I'm just wrapping it underneath the bobble and pulling it tight so that I get a sort of bobble shape that I'm happy with. There we go. Now, continuing on with round 8, we want to finish the repeat by knitting 3. 1, 2, 3, and we want to repeat that sequence again, and this time for needle 1 we'll have 2 stitches remaining which we'll need to slip. So we want to begin by bringing the yarn to the front, and then we're going to knit the next 3 stitches together like so. Bring the yarn to the front again and knit 3. 1, 2, 3. Into the next stitch, make your bobble. So we knit 1, yarn forward, knit 1, yarn forward, and knit 1. Turn the work. Now purl these 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and turn the work again. Knit 2 together and knit 2. Sorry, knit 3. So knit 2 together and knit 3. Turn the work. Purl 2 together and purl 2. Turn the work and knit 3 together and bring the bobble rather so that it's kind of in the front. Bring the yarn around and let's wrap the base of this little bobble. Bring the yarn to the back and knit 3, and we should have 2 stitches remaining. So there they are. We want to carefully slip those onto needle 2 like so. Now we want to bring the yarn to the front, because if you remember we need to ensure that the yarn is under the working needle. What I'm going to do is enter into the next 3 stitches, get that in position, double check that the yarn is nicely under the working needle. That means I can bring it around and in between so that I can knit 3 together like so. Yarn forward and knit 3. So that's 2 and that's 3. Into the next stitch, let's make a bobble. So knit 1, yarn forward, knit 1, yarn forward, and knit 1. And let's turn that bobble and let's purl 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn the work, knit 2 together and then knit 3. Turn the work, now purl 2 together and purl 2 and turn the work, and we'll finish the bobble by knitting 3 together, so ensuring we are going through all 3 stitches, otherwise we'll have our bobble unravelling. For some reason it's not going underneath that middle stitch very easily. So once I've caught all those 3 stitches and knit them together, we can then wrap this yarn around the base of the bobble. Now I want you to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and the 2 stitches you have remaining, we want those placed onto needle 3, and we've got one final repeat. So let's bring the yarn to the front, let's get our working needle in position. We want to go into the next 3 stitches because we're going to knit 3 together. Now ensuring this yarn is under the working needle, and then it goes around to form the knit 3 together. Yarn forward again, knit 3, 1, 2, 3. Make a bobble. So knit 1, leaving the stitch on the left needle, yarn forward, knit 1, yarn forward, knit 1, turn, and we want to purl these 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I notice that with rowan yarns a lot, you get these little knots in the middle, it's really annoying. Right, that's my mown over. Knit 2 together and then knit 3. Turn the work. Purl 2 together and then purl 2. Turn the work and then knit these 3 stitches together. Bring the yarn to the front and create the little wrap around the base, and then with the yarn to the back we can finish this round by knitting 3. So that's round 8, and those 8 rounds form the main pattern, and all we have to do is repeat that sequence for this lovely lace bobble stitch to emerge. Repeat rounds 1 to 8 3 further times to build up this beautiful lace pattern, and then I want you to repeat rounds 1 to 4. For round 5 you'll be needing a stitch holder, as we will be reserving stitches for the thumb on this round. So what I want you to do is slip 7 stitches onto your stitch holder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the first 7 stitches there from needle 1, place onto a stitch holder. Now if you place your working needle for a moment against needle 3, we're going to create 7 stitches onto the working needle. So all I'm doing is grasping the yarn in my left hand and wrapping it around the thumb, and then I'm simply going to place that first stitch like so onto my working needle. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the first stitch I kind of did quite tightly, and then thereafter these stitches I kind of kept relatively loose so that on the following round I'll be able to work into them a bit easier. So what we now need to do is bring up needle 1 and simply continue the round, and we need to be very careful here that we know what our stitches are and that we don't accidentally kind of knit into strands and yarn forwards by accident. So just making sure that I'm taking in what's happening here, and then yarn to the back and ensuring my stitches are not twisted. I'm going to carry on working round 5 as normal, just knitting. And remember, at the end of round 5 we need to slip that very last stitch over and onto needle 1, and then that will complete round 5. Now we're going to work round 6 as usual, but I thought I'd show you, just as we've got this thumb area to deal with. So begin round 6 by knitting 2 together, and then yarn forward and knit 5. So we're knitting into our new stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3. So it does help if you've not made these stitches overly tight. 4, 5, and then we're doing a yarn forward again, and then I want you to slip 1 and then knit 1 and then pass the slip stitch over, like so, and finish the repeat by knitting 1, and then we want to repeat that a second time. So knit 2 together, yarn forward and knit 5, and now yarn forward, slip 1, knit one, pass the slip stitch over and knit one, and the remaining stitch from needle one gets transferred over onto needle two. So now we've got a couple of rows or rounds over the thumb area. It's just easy to continue on in the pattern. So work rounds, continue with round 6, work round 7 and then round 8, and after that I want you to do one further set of the repeat, so rounds 1 to 8 after that. Once you have completed rounds 1 to 8, I want you to work one final knit round. So I've just completed that knit round, and notice I haven't slipped any stitches over onto needle one. Next, we are going to prepare for the fingers by increasing the hand section. So I'm going to call this round A, and what I want you to do is knit one and then yarn forward or yarn over, knit one and yarn forward, and then I want you to knit 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I want you to repeat that sequence throughout the round. So we are going to do a knit one first, yarn forward, knit one, yarn forward, and knit 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's needle 1. Now for needle 2, continue with the repeat pattern. So knit one first, and then yarn forward, knit one, yarn forward and knit 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's needle 2. Now for needle 3. So for needle 3, knit one, yarn forward, knit one, yarn forward and knit 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So that's round A completed. So round B, we are going to knit one, and then every time we see a yarn forward, we're going to work into the back of that. So you want to, sometimes I go through the front to open it up a bit, but the aim is to go through the back of the stitch there from the previous yarn forward, and then to work through the back of it. So that's knit one and then knit one through back loop, and we want to repeat that again, knit one and then knit one through the back loop, and this prevents an eyelet from forming, which is what we want. Next, knit 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we're going to continue with that sequence throughout. So beginning again by knitting 1 and then knitting through the back loop. And if I do sometimes have to loosen it if I can't get into the back, might have to cheat there. So knit 1 through the back loop, knit 1, and again we want to go through the back like so, and then knit 8. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and continue on for needle 2 with that repeat. So again, knitting 1, knitting 1 through the back loop, knitting 1, knitting 1 through the back loop, and then knitting 8. So that would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now for needle 3, we begin by knitting 1, and then we want to knit through the back of this loop, knit 1, and again knit 1 through the back loop, and knit 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's round B completed. Before we carry on to create the individual fingers, just do a quick stitch count. You want to make sure you've got a total of 48 stitches. There will be 24 stitches on needle 1 and 12 stitches on needles 2 and 3. Now I'd like you to get a circular needle, and a little marker, something like this will come in useful. I want you to mark the centre of the thumb opening directly above it. So if I show you what I mean by that, if you place a marker on the 15th stitch on needle 1, you will find the centre point that I'm referring to. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. So that's the centre point of the thumb opening, and 14 stitches to the right create the right index finger, the right glove, and 14 stitches to the left will create the index finger for the left glove. So in this video I'm going to be demonstrating the right glove. So first of all, what I suggest is slipping all the stitches from needles 2 and 3 onto a circular needle to free up some double pointed needles for creating the index fingers. So we don't need these stitches for the time being, so they're better off on a circular needle for holding, and then we'll worry about arranging needle 1 correctly. So that's the first one on hold. Let's place needle 2 there on hold. And we want the first 14 stitches, so that means I can slip the stitches up to the marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that should leave me with 14. Let's just check, so I might have got that wrong. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Yeah, that's correct. I've got 14 stitches. Look, that's perfect. Now, grab yourself a fresh double pointed needle and slip 7 stitches onto it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now if we close that and arrange it a little bit, let's arrange this holder so that hopefully you can see what's happening here. I've now got stitches ready to create the finger. So there's the thumb opening. In fact, if I just place my thumb inside and do this, you sort of get the idea. So we now need a third double pointed needle. We need to find our yarn, and what we're going to do is simply work small rounds for the index finger. Now it just so happens that for the first row we just work across, so I'm going to call this needle A. Let's work across the first 7 stitches knitwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then we'll work needle B, and when we get to the end of this needle we can then close the round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now close those together. And round 2 will secure the round. So now for round 2, 1, pulling that tightly there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's needle A. Just going to turn it so I can work needle B. And then I just tend to pull a bit tighter at the junction of needles so that I don't get a laddering effect. And so we're already nearly finished with round 2. I'm going to show you one more round. Let's do round 3 together. And then after round 3, after you've seen me work round 3, I'd like you to carry on for a total of 8 rounds. So I want you to do 5 more rounds, and then we're going to cast off knitwise, and then our index finger will be complete. So if you would like to carry on for another 5 rounds, join me at that point. What I'll do is I'll just slip this on again for you, just so you can see the build up so far. You see, already it's looking like a proper glove. Look at that. So join me after row 8. Now I have my 8 rounds. I'm going to cast off knitwise. So knitting 2 and then passing a stitch over on the right needle. I align the finished cast off edge by going into the first stitches that I cast off. I've gone underneath rather in a sort of crochet like fashion, and I'm just going to pull through a stitch and cast that off. And I generally find that neatens the top. This helps a little with the darning in at the end. It gives it a nice finish to the top. Right, so now we've got our index finger, we can create our middle finger next. And if you note that the middle and the ring finger are made in exactly the same way, so we don't need this marker anymore, so we can get rid of that. Now I want you to slip 6 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from each end of the circular needle holder. So I've got 1 in position, so bring up from the opposite side another 6 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So again, we'll call these needles needle A and needle B. And so we've got 2 lots of 6 stitches ready. Before we work those, we need to collect 2 stitches at the base of the previous finger. So we need to find a suitable space in which to find a little bar that we can pick up. So I'm going to rejoin my yarn here and see how that looks. And then over onto the opposite side, I'll try and find another suitable stitch in which I can collect another stitch. So I do tend to like the sort of bars that I can see, the horizontal bars. Let's go in there because we can always undo it if it looks wholly. And once we've got those 2 stitches, we need to sort out, make sure that our stitches on our 2 needles are not twisted. And then we can work across our first needle. Let's call this needle A. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got 6 stitches plus the 2 that we've collected, so that's 8. And then to complete the first round, we're going to work these 6 stitches here. I'm going to bring those 2 needles in together so that I can tighten at the junction of the 2 needles there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's our first round. And I'm going to continue for a total of 8 rounds and then cast off. So I've got another 7 rounds to go. So now for round 2, just making sure I'm working with the working yarn, not the place, not the tail. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's needle A. Now for needle B. Again, I'm pulling in extra tight at the junction of needles. So we have 2 rounds and another 6 more to go. And then we can cast off and create the ring finger in exactly the same way as the middle finger. Now for the baby finger. Divide the 10 remaining stitches over 2 double pointed needles. For the baby finger we have a total of 12 stitches after picking up at the base of the previous finger. So work those 12 stitches for a total of 8 rounds and then cast off. Now let's create the thumb. We are going to pick up a total of 9 stitches over this opening here, beginning at this point. So we need to rejoin the yarn. So I'm looking for a nice horizontal bar. I quite like the look of that stitch, so I'm going to go and collect that one there and rejoin my yarn. And so that's my first stitch. And as this feels a little bit lumpy just here, I'm going to bypass that and go into this stitch to form what will be an eyelet. Can you see it will be in keeping with the pattern, so I don't mind that. So that's my second. And then along this edge where we cast on earlier on, I'm going to select these nice horizontal bars here. Let's do that again, I haven't quite caught that. So in there, that will be 3. So I'm aiming for 9. There's another one. That's 4. Five. Now, which one shall I go for? let's go here. Six. And now I'm going to go into this strand here where I'll form another eyelet on the opposite side. 7. So 2 more stitches to go. Let's see what that looks like. So we now should have 9, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So now we want to slip the stitches that were previously on the holder onto a double pointed needle. Let's just check because we should have 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So check you've got 7, and we are going to just carry on working all these stitches that were previously on the holder. I'm going to pull that junction tightly. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we had now over needles A and B here, we've got a total of 16 stitches, and again we want to work a total of 8 rounds. So we have 7 more to go. So this is round 2. Now where's my little tail gone? I could do with giving that. No, it's disappeared inside there. Look, let's just bring that out and just pull that tightly, and then we can pull our working yarn tightly also and get a nice connection there for a round 2. So needle B, and we're nearly at the end of our second round. So what I'd like you to do is carry on, and then when you have 8 rounds you can cast off the thumb.